It's funny, we were just talking, making YouTube thumbnails is so funny. I laugh every time I have to make a thumbnail now.
Yeah, so good.
It's just like, what stupid meme can I use to chuck in this thumbnail? And I just laugh. I'm scrolling through meme generator and stuff like that, and I'm just laughing at all these different pictures and all these memes.
Well, that's it. If you can enjoy it while you do it, like, it makes it even more worthwhile, right? And hopefully
yeah, I've got no idea how to make a thumbnail in my life. I'm just kind of going off of what I see on YouTube. I don't know if it's working or not, but there you go.
I think we all, consume enough media these days to have an idea of what we enjoy. So I suppose that's
we need like those like shocked clickbait like images where you're like, oh my God,
Heresy's dead.
Heresy is dead for the 34th time.
It's dead every week.
Speaking of Heresy, I've done not much Heresy hobby lately because this deck that I'm doing at home is just consuming my life.
Yeah.
Not that decks are like hard or anything like that. Once you know how to do them, they just take forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just itching
no quick way to do it.
Get that brush wet.
Yeah, I haven't been doing too much Heresy either, really. I've been painting high elves again this week, so back to my original love. I've just doing some more archers. Yeah, because still haven't got enough core troops for the army. So yeah, trying to get some of those.
Wow, funny you mentioned core troops, Kieran, because that is a pretty great segue, unscripted segue into sort of what we're talking about today. So, episode 3. Power Fists, Heresy on the drive home. We're talking about future-proofing today. So I think everyone is aware that 3rd edition is the worst kept secret ever at this stage. Even with the Heresy website going and Games Workshop trying to make up some rumors themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing's been circulating since September last year. Whispers of getting a new box, what's inside the new box, X, Y, and Z. And the new edition also coincides with the 3-year cycle, which we know is relevant and true in this day and age of Games Workshop.
Unfortunately,
so a lot of us in the Heresy community now are kind of a little bit wary on starting something new, or maybe pulling the trigger on what to do next, because what's ahead is just the unknown. So I think today we'll talk about maybe future-proofing, what you're working on now, and planning for what's ahead. Kieran, what's your take?
Yeah, well, I feel like we've been in this kind of place of limbo for quite a while now. You mentioned September last year, so we've heard rumors for a long time, and as soon as you hear that rumor, it puts that little bit of doubt in your mind. Like, are you going to enjoy the new edition? Which units will be relevant in the new edition? Will you still be able to use all of your models in the new edition? And it just sows those seeds of doubt, and you just kind of knocks your productivity a little bit, and you're kind of a little less kind of inspired to hobby and start something new in particular. So yeah, it's been that kind of interesting period of time, and I know a lot of people in the community have felt the same way, waiting for a new edition to come out and not being exactly sure where to go and what to do in the meantime. So hopefully we're going to have a few ideas about that today, even though I think we've got a reveal coming up on the 24th, so very soon, which will be great to get some better pictures of those new models and see what's going on. But I imagine the actual release of the game will still be a way down the track, so there's still quite a bit of time to plan for that new edition and to, get everything lined up, ready to go from day one.
I think you're right. For me, it's almost like a momentum killer in a way. It just hangs like this sort of dark grey cloud over
Yeah.
your sort of heresy, experience, whether you sort of choose to acknowledge it or not. It affects things like, events, excitement within, different gaming groups. The levels are certainly more turbulent, and really it's almost down to the individual to choose how to move forward with this sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
I know with me and the Sallies, where I'm sort of heading to, planning for third edition. I think it's time I just added some more generic units into the army, maybe things that I know are going to be staples of the game always.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of lacking from my force at the moment, because it started out as quite a stylized force, like we touched
Yeah.
on. So adding just core vanilla units that I know aren't going to be a sort of risk going
Yeah.
into the new edition is the way I'm going to sort of run with it over the next few months before we start to see some rules, or have the rules in our hands and have a better idea of which sort of direction to go with our armies. I can explain to you a little bit further, if you like, about what I'm working on at the moment, because I have uploaded some pics here.
That'd be great, because I know, yeah, your army has been a very specialized force so far, and there's no guarantees about any of those kind of things. And we can talk a little bit about the theme you were thinking of for your army later on,
Yeah,
perhaps, and how that might have changed, because the way you were heading was a very kind of unique and individual kind of take on the force, and it's very debatable whether that's going to be an option for you, at least at the start of the edition. But these are looking really nice. Are they veterans?
they're veterans. So I know we touched on the fact that these disciples of the flame salamanders are essentially black shields.
Yeah,
But yeah, like you said, are black shields going to be a thing at the start of the edition? Are they going to be playable? No one knows at this
I
stage.
doubt it. Yeah,
So I'm happy to divert back just to a Salamander's army, but to try and keep the theme of the force as strong as possible. They're all essentially veterans of Isfahan 5 anyway. So doing veterans units
that's perfect for the new
makes
game.
sense for the
Yeah,
army. Yeah. So
stuff.
I mean, running. I'm banking on the fact that veterans will still be troops in some way, shape, or form in the new edition,
Yeah,
and there is a contingency to that. Is that if I can't run them as veterans, the contingency is that I can always just divert these models back to just being regular despoilers.
I was going to ask that. Yeah, like obviously some of the power axes and that might not be an option, but they can always just count as chain swords. And if you have power
Yeah.
weapons in your veteran squad, they can always be despoilers with power weapons. So you've got that flexibility, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, I've it's always fun building veterans because you get to really individualize them a little bit,
Yeah.
and go that sort of extra step of modeling on there. I mean, it takes fucking ages to build them because of it. It's not like you can just pump them all out in one sitting like you can
Yeah.
with regular tactical
Yeah.
marines or something like that. So the effort to
Yeah.
sort of individualize them, give them little bits of character or
Yeah.
different war gear options and that sort of stuff, it does take that little bit of extra time.
Yeah.
However, I think I've sort of covered enough bases with them to
Yeah.
represent them as despoilers if I needed to. They've got pistols, they've got chain swords or chain axes, which I'll just count as
Yeah.
chain swords anyway. And they've nearly all got bolt guns sort of strapped to them in some way, shape, or form. So they will have almost like a dual purpose, depending on what sort of style I want to take them in third edition.
Yeah. And I don't know how you feel about assembling models, but I find it kind of one of the more boring aspects of the hobby. I definitely prefer to paint, but even though like doing these individualized kind of veteran models takes a lot more time, I find it a lot more interesting than building just basic infantry. So even though it's a slog and it takes a lot more time, I think individualizing your force the way you have makes it far more rewarding, and like it actually turns that assembly aspect of the hobby into something that you enjoy. Have you,
I
even though
will,
it's been a slog for you, right, and you haven't, been able to paint them and you've been working on them for ages, has it been enjoyable?
I think so. Like when I got all the bits together and stuff, I was really excited, and I started sort of putting them together. And because I'm building 20 at a time at the moment, it's a big chunk to get through. So I had like
That's a lot of veterans,
all
yeah.
these hobby sittings at the desk, but they all felt like 1% effort, and I wasn't
Yeah,
really seeing much come of it. Now I'd say, like, besides some green stuff work, I mean, like you can see on this Vexilla here that I've made, that's just the basic shape of the green stuff work. There's still more green stuff work in order to make that banner look more like fabric and whatnot.
yeah.
That's just the first stage.
Hmm.
So there is still a little bit to go on these guys, but the bulk of it is done. And now that it is done, it's quite a relief, to be honest.
So
So
is that Vexilla going to be, is it going to be cloth, or is it going to be like a parchment kind of style?
yeah, it'll be similar. It'll be like a cloth banner, I guess. Like it's
Okay.
similar to what's on my herald.
Yeah, cool.
So it'll have like the Promethean runes and
Some
stuff, sort of.
Promethean stuff on it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
coming down from it. Um, so yeah, having that strong backbone of like 20 veterans to add to the force straight away really
Yeah.
sort of just thickens the army out in a good way.
Yeah.
I'm also going to add a rhino for each squad as well,
Yeah.
because I can't think of an edition where rhinos have been bad. They're always just like a solid choice.
There's definitely been editions where they've been really good, and then every other edition they're just good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in my mind, there's no real drawback not to take one.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a classic Space Marine unit. It looks good on the tabletop as well. Gives you, a bit more space to do some work on the top hatch as well if you want to.
Yeah,
But just
yeah,
looking
for
at these
sure.
veterans, I really love that you've included some Anvilus power packs. They look fantastic. Definitely gives them that kind
Cheers,
of
they, oh man,
piratical
they're
kind
so
of,
sick.
more kind of off the shelf kind of look.
Yeah, Anvilus is fucking sick.
Goes really well with that Mark V and those custom heads that you've got as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can obviously these are majority printed. I mean, I touched on it last time where I sort of
Yeah.
just by coincidence in the armor marks that I'm choosing for this army to represent the theme, just happen
Yeah.
to be printing more bodies than what I anticipated. However, we've got the Mark II coming in the new box,
I was just
so
about to ask if you were planning to use some of that. Yeah.
I think I will. I mean, if
Might as
the
well.
buying the box is the fastest way to get the core rulebook, I will just buy the
Yeah.
box.
That's the only reason I bought the last one. Yeah. Get the rules
Me
on
too.
day one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
I've still got like
Spartan.
half of that box unused.
Exactly. I think I sold off most of it. Spartan didn't want to use. Mark
Yeah.
6 didn't want to use.
Yeah.
So I really just kept the Contemptor
Cataphractii
and
didn't use.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
book, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I will be using the new Mark II.
Yeah.
I
Sweet.
think they'll look pretty solid.
Yeah.
So
And we'll get
whether
a better
I
look at them on the
use them,
weekend. So hopefully, they'll look
yeah,
fantastic. They do look good in the photos so far. And I'm interested to see what that Mark II character looks like as well. From, the blurry picture that we've seen, it looks pretty decent. So
yeah, he looks
that'll be
decent.
good to see.
Unlike his mate on the other side of the box.
Oh God, yeah, we're gonna
We can talk
save
about
that
that
for
next time.
a Kizza loses it episode. Yeah.
Oh, we need a segment. We're going to have a new segment on the show, I promise. It's going to be called
Oh
Kizza
man.
Loses It.
Yeah. Well, the Heresy Hammer boys triggered me this morning with more Saturnine chat, so there's plenty to lose it about.
What? Wait. They like all
No,
forms of Saturnine.
Saturnine the
They
book.
like
Yeah, Saturnine the story. Yeah.
they like the novel Saturnine,
Yeah. I know.
which we inherently have huge problems with.
Yeah.
They like the Saturnine models,
Yeah.
which
I know. It's
they've got to
just.
take a good hard look at themselves at this stage.
I know. Something about the Saturnine words just like got into their brains and just melted them. But anyway.
All right. So how are you feeling about things then, Kieran?
I'm in a different kind of space to you. I haven't been working on anything specifically for the new edition. I've pretty happy with where my Emperor's Children are at the moment. There's a few units I'd add to bulk things out. I just need to do some more basic assault marines and that kind of thing. But as the army is at the moment, I can happily play 3,000, 3,500 points without adding anything new. So I haven't been working on anything or planning anything new for them in the new edition. I've recently started playing my Alpha Legion again a little bit, um, and I've been enjoying that. But that army's quite old, so I haven't added any new units into it because anything I paint now will look quite different to that army. This is my old first edition Alpha Legion army. I do have those newer Imperial Fist Alpha Legion guys, and I haven't done anything on them. Although I was thinking about it, mostly due to the new edition coming out. I just didn't know which way I wanted to take it. I probably wanted to have like a nicely themed army using, a Rite of War or something, and I just wasn't sure if those Rites of War were going to be around in the same kind of format in the new edition, or what the Force Org chart would look like, and what kind of effect Warlord traits might have, and that kind of thing. So it's all just a little bit up in the air for me at the moment. So I've just mostly been focused on, painting test models, trying out different color schemes. I've showed off the Emperor's Children that I've been working on before, with the metallic kind of pinky scheme. If the Emperor's Children have rules that really kind of speak to me in the new edition, I might try and do a Traitor Emperor's Children army. But at this stage, I'm not like super hyped on that. I'm definitely going to paint some more of the models because I love them. Well, aspects of them. Some parts I really don't like. But yeah, I'm not super keen on another Emperor's Children army when I've just, played one all second edition. But I haven't, I'm in that limbo spot that we spoke about earlier where I haven't been
Mm.
focusing on a project for a long time. Like I said in the intro, I've been painting a few more high elves while I kind of wait to see what happens. But I'm always super hard for Heresy, so I'm just waiting to see what comes out, and I'm really keen to check out the rules, and I'll definitely be diving in as soon as I can get my hands on those and check them out. To start off with, at least I'll be playing games with either my Alpha Legion or my Emperor's Children. But yeah, if there's something new in the rules that speaks to me or inspires me, I'll definitely consider starting another army. Like we've said in the previous couple of episodes, there are always so many ideas floating around that we want to, take from that spark of inspiration,
Mm.
conceptualize, and then kind of realize. Um, for example, this World Eater on the screen right now, like I've always wanted to do a World Eater's army. It was the first army I wanted to do in Heresy. And then I think they released some of the Emperor's Children stuff, and I was like, yeah, no, I've got to go with the Emperor's Children. But I've always had these guys in the back of my head. I feel like they might be a little bit boring to play, which has always
Mm.
kind of held me back a little bit. If you want to kind of be true to how they fought and their fluff and lore, I feel like they might be a little bit one dimensional. But for me, they've got the best color scheme in the game, and they look so good. So yeah, I'm in a different kind of place to you at the moment, in that I'm waiting to see what happens, and I've been waiting for a long time now. So I've just been
All right.
trying to nail different color schemes so that if I do get that spark of inspiration when the new game comes out, I'll be ready to go straight away. And I've been writing up a few tutorials as well for all of those color schemes that we'll be sharing with people at some stage.
Mm.
So hopefully that's something people can get on board with and embrace for the new edition as well, because starting a new army with the new edition is always great, and finding the perfect color scheme that works for you is always one of the big challenges of starting a new army.
Yeah. So that is a good point, right? This is a great period to start knocking out test models if you are going to consider a new army. And it's
Yeah,
probably one of the things you can do right now to stay productive in
yeah,
this sort of limbo period, right?
yeah.
Do you have any other sort of ideas on ways that you can stay productive with sort of,
Well, yeah,
starting a
like
new
you said,
force in this sort of weird stage?
yeah. Besides, starting a new force or figuring out a color scheme, which I'd definitely recommend. Like, obviously you don't know, you might not know exactly which legion you want to try, but you can paint a few different test models and try and figure that out. But if you're really in limbo and you don't want to start a new army and you're just waiting for the new edition to use an existing army, there are always other things you can do in the hobby to stay productive and to keep the hobby train rolling. Um, Building terrain is always a fantastic thing to consider.
Mm.
Everyone always needs more terrain. You could do a display table for yourself, or just some additional kind of terrain pieces to take to your local club or play pickup games with your mates. And even events always need more terrain. Like there's always a need for more kind of line of sight blocking terrain, smaller pieces of scatter terrain. So there's so much you can do in the hobby apart from paint, like models for your army or plan for an army. So
Terrain
yeah,
is a great shout,
definitely encourage
especially
people
if you
just to
don't want
stay
to start a
productive.
new army.
Yeah, yep. And you've had a lot of experience painting terrain and stuff as well, and it can burn you out if you try and do too much of it all at once. So
Mm.
doing just a little bit while you wait for the new thing to come out could be a really kind of positive one, healthy way to do it without
Mm.
killing yourself trying to do like all everything all at once. So
What I will
yeah,
say is that I think terrain is a really great way to be productive, do hobby, but it's also a stress-free hobby.
yeah, it's very different.
You don't have to really worry about the micro sort of too much.
Yeah,
Easier canvas to paint.
yep,
It, it's a little bit more enjoyable. It's a bit more carefree, and it really breaks up just painting mans all the time. It's do with
yeah,
an HBO show on in the background or whatever. You could just be there with a massive brush going and
that's it. Yeah,
just out, picking out a little bit some extra details here and there, and bringing more character to your gaming experience.
yeah,
I know it's tiresome to play on the same tables over and over again, so
yeah,
really sort of feeds the imagination to bring new worlds to life, I think. And
yeah,
it's easy. It looks cool, it's rewarding, and you get to keep it indefinitely and use it indefinitely. So um, the
yeah.
longevity of terrain is also really positive too. What sort of things do you think people should maybe steer away from?
Um, yeah. So this is something that's come up with your army for sure, but
Mm.
just we spoke earlier about some basic units that are good to include. Tactical marines are always good. Um, Despoilers to a lesser degree, but still like a safe choice. uh, Rhinos, like you said, and generic kind of characters, that can fill the role of a Praetor or Delegatus, those kind of things. We don't know how the consoles are going to change, but they didn't change that much between first and second, so hopefully they'll be fairly consistent in third as well. So those kind of basic units, hopefully Dreadnoughts are good still, but when it comes to like theming your force or designing an army list, that's definitely more difficult than choosing a few basic units to work on. So, for example, if you were kind of really wanted to do that an air cav list and you wanted a lot of Storm Eagles and Fire Raptors, I would definitely wait on that because the change that flyers experienced and reserves and striking units experienced between first and second was very jarring, and kind of you don't really see them anymore because of the rules changes and how
Mm.
interceptor and augury scanners and all of those things work. And the same thing would be true for like if you wanted a lot of drop pods in your army. This edition it's far more restrictive. I know you were considering an underworld assault army, right? And
Yeah,
that's kind of got to be
absolutely.
completely put aside. Yeah,
With that would because that would have been awesome to have with the salamanders, especially because it's
yeah,
something that you really don't see all that often. Multiple
yeah,
termites, and I really like the models as well. It's a really cool gaming theme to bring out in the army as well, because I do enjoy the things that aren't so common
yeah.
or aren't so commonly seen in the game. But it's a huge question mark right now. what are termites going to be like in the new edition? Is there even going to be a viable way to run an all termite list? It could be effort spent on a wasted effort, I should say, effort spent on nothing. You know, by the time Heresy 3rd edition is here, who knows if termites even exist in the new rules? So, you know, it is something that I was kind of concerned about. So I decided to go the other direction, like we've mentioned, just stick to the basic things that we know that should be solid choices moving forward. Maybe some other ideas for stylized forces will be ones that all deep strike in, for example, or have a huge flanking assault component to it, or hey,
That's right.
even something like a Tregorian Brotherhood or very jet bike heavy sort of list. That's a super stylized force in its own right. And by making that decision to go down that road at this stage in the game, you're really putting a lot of eggs in the one basket. It's a gamble, probably not one that we would recommend. However, don't let the inspiration, the logic or the reasoning of what we're talking about now kill your inspiration for that force. If your heart's telling you to do it, then definitely do it. But for us, it's not our cup of tea in this late stage of 2nd edition.
Yeah, and we're so close now as well. Like, I'd steer clear of anything that has a very kind of specific or unique way of deploying, and anything that relies on a rite of war, a specific rite of war to run effectively. Just because we don't know how those kind of things are going, we've got a basic idea that the basic kind of mechanics of the game will hopefully be the same, and units will basically do the same thing. But how they kind of combine into an army and how they deploy on the table could be quite different. Even this edition, 2nd edition, something like terror assault is like such a powerful rite of war, right? But it did change from the previous edition, where terror assault units like terror squads they don't score anymore. And just things like that, little things, units getting line or losing line can make a big difference in the list that you want to run. And relying on a rite of war to give you those kind of things is just it's a risk at this stage. And like you said, if it's something you really want to do and you want to go for it. And you can always adjust your list later on with units to add in more line or scoring or however that's going to work in 3rd edition. But just be aware that anything that is predicated on like a specific rite of war, a specific warlord trait that lets you deploy differently or do different things or take different options. It might not be around, or it might be slightly changed. You might not be able to do the things you thought you were going to do if the generic kind of rule interactions in the main rulebook change how those things work. And we don't know exactly what's going to be available on launch either. Like, for example, you had this amazing idea for your salamanders with black shields, the adherence of fire, whatever they're called, and like that's right up in the air at the moment, right? So you're thinking about alternative ways of running your list. And I was super excited to see this army. You had a lot of fluff planned with Cassian Dracos and Narek Drager and all of those characters.
Well,
and
funny you mentioned Cassian Dracos, the most boss box knot of all box knots. They could be set and sail into the sunset, never to be seen again.
Yeah.
Venturing
Which would
out
be a
to
real
the
tragedy, a real shame, but we just don't know. And if you're relying on anything in the legacies at the moment, or the exemplary battles and different units there, like I'd be a bit hesitant. I'm hoping they're in there. Like, I'd be devastated if they were gone. But
I'm laughing
that's your
because
whole
I've got
army.
so
I know.
much stuff in my box of shame that is from the legacies. I'm like, oh no, please
and
no.
you can find other ways to run them, right? Like Narek Drager could just be like a regular Pravian, but that's a bit boring. And you could run, Cassian Dracos as a contemptor or something, but that's also lame. It's all of these unanswered questions that we have at the moment that just kills the hobby vibe a little bit. But yeah,
that's all right. We will work off what we know, not what we don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
That's probably
there's still definitely a lot of stuff to do. Yeah,
exactly. That's probably a good place to end. Anything else to
I
add?
reckon. No, just looking forward to seeing the reveals on the weekend, having a chat about them. Hopefully they'll get the hobby juices flowing again. Hopefully the Saturnine units look a little bit better in some proper pictures, because at the moment they're a little bit questionable in my opinion. Yeah, so
We'll save
how we go.
our opinions for an upcoming show, and we've got something very cool planned coming up.
We do.
So stay tuned for that. Oh, and also a shout out to everyone who's given us really great positive feedback, good reviews, shared, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It means a lot at this early stage.
Appreciate that. It's been really,
if you guys
really
have
great
any
support
other
from the community.
ideas of what you want us to sort of cover as well, we'll definitely take them into consideration too. So drop them in the comments.
Yeah, just leave a comment on YouTube, guys, or I think probably that's the best way to get in touch with us. We do read all the comments, so let us know what you're thinking, how you kind of vibed with the video, how this episode, and any future ideas for down the track. And stay hard for Heresy.
All right, that's it. See you next time.
See you next time.
Hard for Heresy.